Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Hey, what's up, Slint's Joker here, and welcome to the multiplayer portion of my Battlefield Hardline review. I'm going to be tackling the single player in a separate video as I have not completed the campaign yet, but I'm going to be powering through the campaign over this weekend and should have a review up for the single player on Monday. But today I'm going to be focusing just on the multiplayer. I want to talk about the maps in the game, the modes that are available, the weapons and the balance of those weapons and how it all plays out, and the mechanics overall in the multiplayer experience, which I feel is, you know, the main reason a lot of people buy a Battlefield game is they're picking it up for the multiplayer, not so much for the single player. But, you know, that's for a separate video on the single player. But let's go ahead and jump in now and talk about the multiplayer. Alright guys, so any of you that have been watching my channel for a time, you know that I'm a big fan of the Battlefield franchise. I've spoken at length about my, my love for like Operation Metro and Rush Mode and the old Bad Company games. So I was looking forward to Hardline, but I knew there was going to be some areas where it wasn't going to be great, and the area I want to talk about first today are the game modes, which are really disappointing in my opinion. The fact that they don't have a rush mode just really lets me down. It's been a staple in the Battlefield franchise ever since Bad Company 1. I know Conquest was like the original, game mode for Battlefield, but I feel Rush has been indoctrinated right alongside Conquest as being a regular in the series. We saw it in Bad Company 1 and 2, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Rush mode was right there alongside Conquest as one of the most popular modes in the game. And now they've tried to give us this watered down version of it that fits the cops and robbers theme called heist mode, but unfortunately the rounds are just over way too quick, because you basically plant 2 bombs and then you take the objective to an extraction point and the helicopter comes and they take it away and the round is over. Sometimes if you have a really strong attacking team, the round can be over in just a matter of a couple of minutes, and that is just, it's really, really disappointing. I can't stand when that happens, and I just wish there was more to it. I don't know why they couldn't have had this heist mode, but had different stages to it, kind of like a rush map where you take one base and you move to the next base and the next base. Why couldn't they have had several stages of the robbery, like blowing open the vault, and then maybe like you have to get to the cars and have a shootout in the streets, and then maybe like a high-speed car chase. That would have fit in with the cops and robbers theme great, and I felt it would have drawn out the matches quite a bit longer, but unfortunately with the implementation they've done, the matches are just way too short, and I don't really see them fixing that. I don't see them changing the mode around and adding in, extra stages of the robbery at this point after the game is already out. We're pretty much stuck with heist mode the way that it is, and that's let me down massively that they don't have a rush mode. And but heist is still one of the better modes in the game. They've got Conquest Large, which is sort of the old standby that's been in every Battlefield, and if you like Conquest, then Conquest Large and Conquest Small is there for you. I've never been a big fan of Conquest because I don't feel like there's enough direction for the combat. I like to have strong objective-based gameplay like Rush. I know Conquest can be objective-based gameplay, but it doesn't fit to my style of gameplay because I prefer infantry and small vehicle combat, which I feel like is better in Rush and not so much in Conquest. But I know everyone has different tastes. Sorry, I hit my mic there. I know everyone has different tastes, and Conquest obviously has its fans out there. But I've always been more of a Rush fan, as I kind of started out with Battlefield in the Bad Company games. So the fact that that's not there is a big letdown to me. Alright, so beyond Conquest and the heist mode, they've also got Team Deathmatch. That's back in there, which, we've seen in BF3 and BF4. I remember playing lots of hours of No Shark Canals TDM in BF3. That was a great map, and it's still popular to this day. You can still find 24/7 No Shark Canal servers. And I tried it out in Hardline because I was looking for some of that small infantry-based gameplay, which is missing because domination isn't there, which I enjoyed in BF4 and the Close Quarters DLC from BF3. But unfortunately, they didn't bring it around to Hardline, so I figured I would try TDM. But the problem there is that the spawns in Team Deathmatch are absolutely horrible. I mean, you literally spawn on top of enemy people. Like, you will spawn and just die instantly, or you'll spawn in a very beneficial position right behind the enemy team, and you could just shoot them all in the back. I've had it happen multiple times. People have even already figured out the spawns so much to the point where they're putting laser trip mines in the spawn points, where I've spawned in and been killed by a trip mine the second that I dropped in. And that's that's inexcusable. They need to fix the spawns in Team Deathmatch if this is going to be, you know, a popular game mode throughout, you know, Hardline's existence. They need to fix the spawns very, very soon. Otherwise, no one's going to be playing that game mode, I feel, past the first week anyway, once they start to realize that the spawns, you know, are that broken. And it's in the chat. There's so many people in the chat just saying, oh, these spawns, they're broken. And, you know, you're only going to put up with that for so long before you're going to leave and go find a different game mode or a different game entirely. Two other big modes that they've included as sort of within the Cops and Robbers theme are Blood Money and Hotwire. Blood Money I really don't care for too much. I don't feel like there's enough direction for the combat. You know, it's just kind of like a central point for the money, and I feel like both sides are just always going for the package and then, you know, and heading back to their money truck to drop off the money. And there's very little combat in between. There's a lot of fights right around the money, but, you know, in between going back and forth, there's not a whole lot going on. So it really hasn't been able to keep my interest enough because of that. And so I just haven't really put a ton of time into Blood Money. I got bored with it back in the very first beta, and I've tried it in this game, you know, to see if it was any better on newer maps, but unfortunately, it really wasn't that great. Hotwire is another game mode that, you know, a lot of people are praising. They seem to like it for the fast-paced car combat, but to me, it just seemed rather dull. It seems like there's only really two things you can do in Hotwire. One, you can be driving in the car, in which case it turns into like a NASCAR game, where you're just basically driving in circles, which doesn't really sound that appealing to me. And I can't imagine it's very fun for anyone that's actually driving the cars. It's probably fun for the passengers in there that are shooting people, you know, as they're going by and stuff. But as far as being in the cars, it's boring to drive them as an objective, because you're not getting to shoot anyone, and it's a Battlefield game. That's why you buy a Battlefield game, to shoot people, not to drive around in circles. And then the other thing you can do in Hotwire is you can just plant C4 on the road and wait for cars to come by and blow them up, which is fun. It's fun for a short period of time, but eventually you get bored with it, and you just want to go find a game mode that you can really sink your teeth into and play a lot of hours of, which I don't feel like Hotwire is. It doesn't have that same level of draw to me, like, you know, something like Rush Mode, where I want to put hours and hours and hours into this game mode because it's genuinely enjoyable. And that's been a theme across Hardline, is I haven't been able to find a game mode yet where I can really sit down and play for hours on end and have a great experience, because like Heist Mode, the rounds are over too quick. Hotwire just doesn't really keep my attention. Not a big fan of Conquest, so overall just kind of disappointed with the game modes. The last two modes, which I'm briefly just going to touch on here, are Crosshair and Rescue, which is their attempt at appealing to the competitive scene, the Counter-Strike players, which I really don't feel even blend well with Battlefield. Those modes are just completely forgettable. You know, they're small server sizes, like 10 people, and chances are after about a week, I predict that all of those servers are going to be absolutely empty, because as a former person that ran servers myself, I know it's extremely hard to keep those servers full with just 10 people, because if 2 or 3 people leave, the rest of them wind up leaving, and then before you know it, the entire server is dead, and you've got to sit there and try to repopulate it, and the game modes aren't really that compelling. And I just don't see a lot of Battlefield fans sitting down to play it, and I also don't see a lot of competitive players from a game like Counter-Strike coming over just to play those competitive modes. As far as the maps are concerned in Battlefield Hardline, I feel like there are some good maps, some bad maps. As far as good maps are concerned, I feel like Bank Job is a pretty decent map for the Heist Mode. It's probably the best map for the Heist Mode, which makes sense, which is probably why, you know, they had it in the second beta as the only map you could play for Heist Mode. Downtown is also a good map, Grow House, and then finally Hollywood Heights. These are all fun maps in their own rights across pretty much every mode. I felt it was an equal experience. I didn't feel like any one mode sort of detracted in one way or another from these maps, so they were just good across the board in pretty much every mode that I tried them on. As far as bad maps are concerned, Dust Bowl, didn't really care for it. I tried Heist on it, and it was just way too big. Like, you start off way back in your base, and you just got to drive like a mile just to get to the objective, and all of the combat is meant to be centered around like one house, but they have the whole map wide open. So it just seems like, you know, there's a large gap in there, and there's a lot of just unused space, really. For that particular game mode, for Heist Mode, it's just a lot of unused space. I guess you could maybe make the case that it's a good map for Conquest Large, because it is just a big circle. But being as that I'm not really a big Conquest player, Dust Bowl just really didn't appeal to me, and I also think that the dust storm that happens on the map, the Levolution event, just made it look really ugly and pretty much impossible to see. It was worse than the dust storm from what was it? The map from BF4 that they brought back from BF3. I can't even remember what the fuck it was called now. But the dust storm is even worse in Hardline on Dust Bowl. It just makes it like impossible to see anything, and it's like I don't know, like who is that appealing to? Like who's sitting there saying, "Oh man, you know what I want to happen in a game? A dust storm. That's what I want to happen in my game when I'm playing a first-person shooter. I want to be blinded halfway through the match." It's like I don't know what they're thinking there. And as far as destruction is concerned on Dust Bowl, non-existent. Talked about this in the beta review. Even like concrete walls, houses that are just like wooden houses, you can't blow them up, and you know people are hiding in those houses, you can't destroy them. So just absolutely terrible map overall, and it has the least amount of destruction of all the maps in the game. Another bad map, which is something I actually really wanted to like, is the Block. I thought this was going to be a great map as a fan of Operation Metro, and I've heard all of these Battlefield YouTubers like LevelCap talking about how great the Block is, but unfortunately it's so poorly designed that if you play Conquest in it, and if you're on the criminal side, you're just going to wind up pinned in spawn, because you basically have a big wall right outside your spawn with like 2 exits, and the other team is just going to cap out the flags in the first 2-3 minutes of the match, and then you're going to be pinned in spawn by snipers because there's 2 straight alleys right outside of your spawn, so it's just sniper alley right there, so you can't get out. And if you do I'll hit my mic again. And if you do manage to get out into the front street, you're just going to be met by a storm of incendiary grenades and Molotovs. So it's pretty much like impossible to play that map at any enjoyable level on Conquest, which I thought would be the best implementation of it, and I was looking forward to the map. It does have a lot of destruction. You can take out all the buildings on that map, which is fantastic. Looking at the layout of the map being a straight line like it is, I actually feel like it would be a great rush map, but unfortunately, yeah, there's no rush mode. It was okay on heist, but the match was over pretty quickly, and the criminals spawn like pretty much literally on top of the objective, so they get to it almost instantly, and then the cops are on the opposite side of the map, so they pretty much have the objectives planted before you can even get there. So just not a very good map overall, which is it was a letdown for me because I was looking forward to that map because of the way it was being billed as like the new Operation Metro. And lastly, Derailed, Everglades, and Riptide. These maps were just kind of okay. I didn't feel like they were, you know, really compelling one way or the other as being great or bad maps. They were just okay maps that just happened to be there. Riptide was not great for heist mode, though. I will say that, because once you get the first base planted, like, you get all these vehicles that spawn in, like boats and shit. But they make no sense because all of the objectives are land-based, so you can't do dick with the boats besides just drive to the other side of the map and then hop out. I don't know why they've included boats in heist mode when all of the combat is based on land. It's like, yeah, why are there speedboats here? What am I going to do with this? Alright, so now that we've talked about the maps, we've talked about the modes, you know, let's talk about the gameplay and the mechanics and the weapons and stuff in Hardline. You know, a lot of the mechanics and stuff from BF4 have pretty much been carried over, so if you're familiar with how BF4 played, it plays out pretty much the same way as far as the player movement and the gunplay, things like that. Some of the netcode issues are still there. You know, they fixed that stuff in BF4 a lot. They've come a long way with the CTE in the last year and a half or so since BF4 came out, but it's not perfect yet, so some of the issues that are still in BF4 are obviously, you know, they're in Hardline as well. But it's definitely a lot better now with Hardline's launch than it was at BF4's launch. I think everyone can agree on that point, that it's a lot better now than it was. But it's still, you know, it's not perfect, but I feel like right now what they have, it is a playable experience in regards to hit detection and netcode. Every once in a while you might have that feeling of, oh, like I got shot behind a wall. But for the most part, I feel like they've done a great job with improving it. And I really don't have any major complaints as far as that is concerned. As far as the weapons are concerned, I feel like they've hit a good stride with the amount of weapons and gadgets in the game. I think we could all agree that back in BF4 they had far too many weapons and launchers and variations of grenades and gadgets and things like that. But in this game they've actually hit a pretty good balance. There's not too many weapons, there's not anything really too ridiculous or overpowered. There is the M416 and the M16A3, which have virtually no recoil. So hopefully that will get fixed, you know, in due time with a patch. Maybe they'll add a little bit more recoil to those weapons. But besides that, there's not really anything too overpowered gun-wise. The incendiary grenades, I do feel, are getting spammed a bit, as you can recharge them from ammo packs, or just by running up to an ammo guy and holding E on him, you can get more incendiary devices. So those are getting spammed around a lot. So maybe they can limit that so that you can't get incendiary devices. In the same way that in BF4, they made it eventually so that you couldn't get grenades and stuff off of ammo packs, so that people couldn't just spam them down hallways. That's one issue with the incendiary grenades. The grenades themselves in this game are like fucking nukes going off, okay? The splash damage is ridiculous. They need to nerf that just a little bit, I think, because if you're anywhere near a grenade, anywhere in the vicinity of one, you're going to die, because the damage on them is ridiculous and the blast radius is fucking huge when that thing goes off. It's like a mushroom cloud of a fucking nuke going off over Hiroshima, okay? But as far as the guns are concerned, the guns are mostly balanced. Like I was saying, the M16 and the M416, you know, have the recoil issue. They need to add a little bit more there. But other than that, it's mostly okay. I know in the beta, a lot of people complained about the shotguns being overpowered, which I disagree with. If you look at the damage models, they're actually just more consistent with the way that they were in BF3. In BF4, the shotguns were just really shitty. So I think that's why a lot of people are, you know, complaining about the shotguns being overpowered, is because they're so used to being being horrible in BF4. But now that they have the shotgun models, the damage models more in line with like it was in BF3, you know, they're starting to actually be usable again. Unless you're in like an extremely close quarter map, you know, like maybe like Bank Job and stuff on Heist, you're really not going to see that many shotguns anyway. And if you're in a close quarter area like that and you're getting into engagements with people with shotguns that are like, you know, within 10, 15 meters of you, you know, you should expect a shotgun to take you down in 1 or 2 hits anyway. So I really don't have a problem with the damage models on the shotguns. I don't have a problem with the time to kill, which I know some people thought it was too quick. But I think they've managed to just strike a really good balance. I don't think the health system is anywhere near like, you know, say like hardcore mode where you're dying in like 1 bullet. You have to put a decent amount of shots into someone, so it takes a good amount of skill to be able to aim at someone and get enough shots on them to actually put them down. So overall, I feel like the weapons have been balanced out pretty well, with the, you know, the grenade and the M416 and M16, you know, withstanding. But those things can be fixed in a patch, so it's not too bad. They can fix those things out, hopefully pretty soon. But in conclusion, do I think Battlefield Hardline is worth picking up at this time? I think that's, you know, really a decision you're going to have to make for yourself. I'm a little disappointed with it at $60 right now at launch. You can get it for like $44 on G2A. I would say maybe wait for a sale for it to, maybe if it come down in price on G2A for like maybe $30. It would be a good price for Hardline. Like I said, I haven't touched the single player yet, so I'm judging this just based on the multiplayer. But I don't feel like it warrants the $60 price tag because of the limit in the game modes where there's no rush, so there's not really a whole lot there to keep me interested. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be putting as much time into Hardline as I did with BF4, because even though BF4, with all of its problems that it had at launch and for like pretty much the first year that it was out, I still enjoyed playing that game. It still kept me coming back to want to play it because it had good maps and good game modes, you know, going together. And that's something I feel it's missing in Hardline. There's like one really great game mode that really wants me to keep coming back, or even just one map that could keep me engaged and keep coming back. Like I remember when BF3 first came out, all I wanted to do was play Operation Metro. In Bad Company 2, I pretty much mostly just played Valparaiso. I don't feel like there's any map in Hardline that is like those maps for me anyway, that is just like, I need to play that map. That's the only map I want to play. I don't even care about the other maps even existing. Nothing has really grabbed my attention like that, at least not yet. You know, maybe in a few weeks, you know, check back with me and maybe my opinion will have changed. But right now, it's a good game. They've, you know, the mechanics are as solid as they are in BF4 at the minute. So, you know, it's a decent game, but you're going to have to make up your mind for yourself. You know, if you're willing to put up, you know, with the problems that BF4 still has, then Hardline might be the game for you. Or maybe you just want to wait for a sale price down the road and get it just a little bit cheaper. Because at $60, it is a bit of a hefty price tag, and I don't feel like it's worth that full price point right now at this time. But that's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy this. Don't forget to stick a like on it below if you did, and subscribe so you guys can see part 2, where I'm going to be covering the single player. But that's it, guys. Once again, thank you for watching, and also thank you to everyone for subscribing. I just hit 5,000 subscribers. Huge milestone. Really means a lot to me. So thank you for everyone that stuck with me for all this time. I mean, even if you're new to the channel, you know, welcome. Really appreciate all that. I'll catch you guys next time. Ta-ra!